tried singing in a bar. Even now, he wears the scar. He tried singing in bed. She fell asleep instead. He had nowhere to use his voice. He found out that his only choice was singing in the shower. 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 Along with the stereo. Singing in the shower. Having such a good time. Singing in the shower. Along with
That was Solid Citizens with their one-hit wonder from 1984. You might remember them from their countdown appearances. Well, did you know that their lead singer, Michael Walker, lives right here in central Queensland, in Rocky to be precise, and he joins me now. Good morning, Michael.
Morning, Inga. How are you?
Good. Well, Michael, listening to that song, does that bring back a few memories?
It does. It does. Yes. Good times.
Yeah, well, I was watching the clip. I remember it because I was an avid Countdown fan and watched every single episode. And there was a clip of you singing in the shower, but we were just chatting while the song was playing, and that could have ended up really badly. So what happened?
Oh, the original video was shot in a football club in Sydney, and they enclosed the shower area with plastic, and the production team got the fire brigade to come in and pump in firefighting foam. And all the electrical wiring was hung off coat hangers off the ceiling, and it was pretty funny. When the foam got up to our chins, we were hoping they knew how to turn it off because it was pretty...
oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was fun, but it was really enjoyable. It was good. We had a good time.
So it did hit number one. So what was that journey like, and to be on Countdown?
Well, it didn't actually hit number one nationally, but it did hit number one in Bathurst the first week in.
Hey, that's still number one.
Well, it knocked off Michael Jackson, so it wasn't too bad. And we were going to call the album Big in Bathurst. But that didn't eventuate, unfortunately. The record company closed down their local A&R, and there were a lot of bands that got dropped by the label.
So was it just bad timing for you?
Oh, I think it was. We were with the wrong record company, basically. I think, and It's a long story, but.
Well, how did Solid Citizens start, and where did you start?
Oh, we started in Brisbane, and we had a very talented band together, and we did a lot of gigs, and then our management actually. Left us alone. We got dropped by our management because it wasn't really working. So I got a job as a tinny runner in a studio, which meant that you wound up leads and you did all that. And as a result of that, I got free recording time at night. So we recorded some tracks, and we worked with a producer called Peter Blyton in those days, who went on and did some good stuff. I released a song called "You're Not Alone." And unbeknown to us, it was getting a lot of airplay on Double J in Sydney, and that's when Sydney radio wasn't nationally broadcast. And on my honeymoon, we went down to Sydney, and a friend of mine said, they're playing You're Not Alone. And I went, wow. So went in and did an interview with Tom Zelenka at Double J, who nominated that song as his Song of the Year, which was really, really interesting. That led to a publishing deal with MCA Music, which led to us recording in England with Mike Shipley and Mark Goldenberg. Mike Shipley had just finished mixing Heartbeat City with the Cars, which was pretty amazing. Like we heard the master at the Manor Studios at full volume.
So were you pinching yourself?
Oh, totally. And the other producer was a guy called Mark Goldenberg, who he co-wrote Automatic for the Pointer Sisters. So he was the sort of the musical side of things, and Mike was the technical side of things. Mike Shipley was actually a pretty famous guy. He did a lot of Def Leppard, Shania Twain, Bryan Adams, all those big names, and we were sort of in the middle there. So we thought that good things were going to happen.
So, well, having them there, were you? Did you rub shoulders with any of these big bands like anyone from the Cars?
We didn't then, but later I had a personal dinner with Phil Collins, which was pretty interesting. That was after a gig at the Opera House, and we went backstage, and there was just us and the band, and it was interesting talking to Phil.
Was he a nice bloke?
Oh, fantastic, lovely fella. He was actually producing Earth, Wind and Fire, and Earth, Wind and Fire were the brass section that were touring with him. And a friend from MCA Universal Music had organised the recording as they were travelling around the world, and that's why we got the special invite. So it was pretty unique.
So you were rubbing shoulders and working with some of these really big names in the music industry. So was this before you did the single Singing in the Shower?
No, that was after.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened after you hit number one in Bathurst? You appeared on Countdown and you were really popular. What happened then?
Basically, the record company just it closed shop. So we were sort of without a record deal. I did a couple of other things, and then our daughter was born, and that changed my whole perspective on life. So I gave up touring. Didn't want to be in a band any longer. So went over to the UK for 3 years as a songwriter. I was still signed to MCA Universal. So that was a very interesting period, and I met a lot of great people over there as well. So especially Mike Shipley was still producing over there, and I met another guy called Richard Mannering who I did some work with over there. And Richard he'd just done Fine Young Cannibals, and he was doing Talking Heads, and he was pretty amazing, very talented fellow.
So what was that like, working as a songwriter? Was there a lot of work?
Oh, it was very tough. England actually wasn't the best place to be a songwriter. LA is the place if you're going to be a songwriter. It took 2.5 years for me to actually break any real ground over there. But at the end, it did look very promising. But it sort of fell over at the end.
So, Michael, you've met quite a few famous people in the recording and writing side, but you've actually met some famous people that the rest of us would know too. So would you like to share some anecdotes?
Oh, it was so funny. We were recording at the Manor Studios in outside London, in Oxfordshire actually, and it happened to be, it's a residential studio, fantastic studio, and the owner was a guy called Richard Branson. Richard Branson. And so we had breakfast, lunch and dinner with Richard for 2 weeks. Wow. And it was pretty funny because, there are down times, when you're recording. And they had a set of go-karts. They had some go-karts and a go-kart track. And they decommissioned them because I think it was the drummer in Motley Crue or someone had rolled it and broken his arm, or there was some accident, so they decommissioned these. But I recommissioned them with some windscreen wiper springs, and so Richard Branson he had timers doing races and stuff like that. It was a pretty funny guy.
My goodness. Do you ever just look back and just pinch yourself and wonder, did this really happen?
Yeah, no, I just run with it, It's one of those roller coaster things, and every aspect of life brings its own joy, Just playing golf at the Rockhampton Golf Club is just as enjoyable as everything else I've done.
You're listening to ABC Capricornia. My guest this morning is Michael Walker of Solid Citizens fame, plus much, much more. So how did you end up in Rocky?
Well, good luck, I guess.
Yeah.
My wife, we moved back to Brisbane, and we were in Brisbane in the 90s, and my wife was the art critic for the Courier Mail for 10 years, and but she had studied in London. She's got a master's from the Courtauld University of London, and used to be a curator at the Queensland Art Gallery and whatever. And she got the job as the director of the art gallery in Rockhampton. So I gave her 2 years. I was commuting. I gave her 2 years to get sick of it, but she didn't. So I moved up to Rocky. I think that was 2002, somewhere around then, and just fallen in love with the place. We think it's fantastic.
You've still been in the creative industry. So what have you been doing in the intervening years since you moved to Rocky?
I was basically still always writing songs. But I managed a young teenage band called New School Hero, and they actually became the face of an RACQ campaign called Free to Go. And actually, it's quite interesting because New School Hero morphed into another band called the Delta Rigs, who are actually getting quite good airplay on Triple J, and recently toured with the Foo Fighters. So they're going okay, I guess.
Just a bit.
Yeah, just a bit, And anyway, I decided that I would build a little studio. So I built a little studio so I could sort of get back into actually recording. I had a temporary studio upstairs, and that's where I recorded a couple of songs for now and then. And Dreams, which was great, that turned out really well, and I think that's on the ABC local playlist.
Okay, well, tell me, so when you've got this, is it a EP or a...
Yeah, I guess you'd call it, yeah.
Yeah, so called Now and Then. So when did you do this?
Well, I think I did Dreams about 3 years ago, and we shot the video, which is great. I mean, and that features my wife's artwork as well. I recorded that using local musos, which was fantastic. Oh, and the interesting thing about making music now is that you can do it via the internet, So the drummer, I Dropboxed the files to a drummer in Cairns called Laurie Ernst. I Dropboxed the piano part for David Bentley to play piano. And Ed Henry sang the vocals in Brisbane. So
that's amazing.
And then I got it mixed in London by Dave Pemberton, who's a great engineer as well. So he did Groove Armada and various other bands and The Prodigy and.
Gee, so know people in really good places.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and they're all good people. It's great. Interestingly, the latest song I've just recorded was mixed by Dave Richards, and David is now the music supervisor for the Arias. I phoned up Dave to thank him last night, and he was doing a rehearsal with Amy Shark, and he said, "Excuse me, Amy, I've got to talk to a mate here."
Yeah.
It's pretty funny stuff. So, it's sort of interesting.
You're listening to ABC Capricornia, and I'm speaking with Michael Walker, who is a songwriter and also fronted the band Solid Citizens, who had a big hit back in the 80s. So what about sort of with musicians here in Rocky? Do you do any work with them, or what do you think of the music scene here, even in central Queensland?
Unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. I've been to local gigs, and the talent here is just phenomenal. Yeah, amazing stuff. On Dreams, we had local guys playing bass and guitar, and wonderful musicians. I mean, and Busby Maru, for heaven's sake, world-class stuff.
So what advice do you give someone who wants to be a songwriter or someone who wants to get into the music industry? And, you've had a really long, eclectic journey.
Well, it's a hard road. There's no doubt about it. I've had to work in other jobs to support myself. But it's a passion, and if you follow your dreams, well, you never know, they might come off. Yeah, I think that you do what you got to do, and that's what I've done, basically.
Yeah, you haven't stopped. So what are you doing now?
Right, well, just finished. I just got a mix and master back last night of a new song called Just Like Me, and I wrote that in 1992, really, and with the new studio, I'm able to actually start working on some songs again. And some great talent played on that as well. David Bentley played Hammond organ, and Ed Henry did the backing vocals, and David Richards, who also did the mix and mastering, he played wonderful guitar and bass on it. And I'm very privileged to be able to work with that calibre of musicians and people.
Well, should we have a listen?
That'd be great.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming in. Here we go.
We like each other, just like me. like so many others. Have you ever lived for tomorrow on dreams of yesterday? Held out for the things they said you should give away. What more have you got to give? There's only one life you can live. How long can it go on? 'Cause sometimes you're not that strong. You're just like me. We're like each other. Just like me, like so many others. Have you ever held on to a love you thought would never go? Ever drunk from the spring you thought would always flow? Did what you thought was right, but it still couldn't get you through the night. No matter how hard you tried, it slipped through your hands and passed you by. Just like me, we're like each other. Just like me, so many others. So if you hold out your hand, yeah, you know I'll be there. I'll understand. I know what you're going through. 'Cause you know, I've been there too. Just like me, we're like each other.
We're like each other.
Just like me, like so many others. Yeah, you're just like me. We're like each other. Just like me, like so many others. So if you've only lived for tomorrow, you're just like me. We're like each other. If you've only held on to just one love like me,